everybody. Welcome to another week of Coffee with Allie. And this week, I'm going to be speaking about how to get that badass, contrasty look in an image without cranking the clarity. That's right. I'm on a war against clarity. I'm just going to go right into the tutorial. And in this tutorial, it's an image that I took of Sierra as a cosplay of Tate Langdon. Clearly a badass, gritty character. I'm going to show you why you don't use a bunch of clarity. And this is important for women. It's important for men too. Clarity just cranks your edges. It's just too much. I'm going to give you an alternative. This is a Lightroom tutorial. We're not going into Photoshop. I'm going to do some color grading, contrast, and give it that good edgy look. So stay tuned. So this is an image that I took of Sierra at a recent event. She's Tate Langdon. And of course, this is just like, I just cropped this, and that's all I've done. You can see that I've cropped it. So what I want to do is I want to add some contrast, give it more of a cinematic look, but I don't want to destroy her skin. And I have seen too many people take an image like this, go like this, and call it done. That's not, no, please don't do that. And then, if you really want to wreck it, you're going to throw in some of the texture. And hey, while we're at it, let's just throw in some dehaze. Stop, please, stop. I'm going to show you in Lightroom how I add, bringing these back to center, how I work with these tools to give her a good, badass look without destroying her skin. And the first thing I'm going to do is add some contrast. And another thing I like to do is just so you could see her, she's like, I could pull the vibrance down. I don't want, when you add contrast, the saturation comes up. But instead of pulling the vibrance down, I'm going to go to my hue and saturation slider, pull my red down a little bit, pull my orange down a little bit, and pull my yellow down a little bit. That's where the skin tones are. And so that is going to give us that more desaturated look without, without desaturating the whole image. I'm going to definitely add a little bit of a vignette. And again, you don't want to put this, no, we're not in the 80s anymore, like when those were popular, just a little vignette. So I did a little bit of looking at Tate Langdon images, and I noticed that they tended to go warm and they tended to go kind of green. So I'm just going to play with my white balance and push those to like warm and green, and I'm going to pop my highlights to give myself a little bit more contrast. And so far, as you can see, I'm getting that grittier look, but what's not happening is her skin is not getting destroyed and her makeup's not getting destroyed. I am going to use clarity and texture. I'm going to use I like texture a little better, so what I do is I start off with texture, and what my mentor Frank likes to say is you start at 0 and go to hero. So you can see, though, even if I take texture all the way over, it's not overdone. So texture is kind of nice, but I'm going to pull the texture at about 32. And then I'm just going to pop up like a tiny +5, very little clarity. So I'm going to bring in that look of the edginess, but it's still not getting those cracky edges that are just so hideous. Last is if I really want to, I can now kind of play with her highlights and her shadows, and I'm going to play with split toning. So I'm going to push the saturation of my split toning up, and I can see that the last time I played with split toning, I was using like a red, and then you can grab your hue, and this should just be affecting my shadows. And I'm going to push that a little bit green, and then I can play with the balance so that I can say, I really want my shadows green, or I really don't want much hit in my shadows, or I want it somewhere in the middle. I actually really do want my shadows a little bit greener. And you can come into the picker, and you can see where it's at now. And I'm going to leave it there, but if you push it higher, it really starts to take over the whole image. So that's why I'm not going to go there. So I think it looks pretty good right there. And now for the highlights, I can push up the saturation. And if I push up the saturation a lot, I do that sometimes just to see, well, what color did I have in there? I certainly don't want red for her highlights. So I'm going to pull it down, and now I'm just going to play with this until I get kind of a, there, I don't know, that's a blue. That looks good. It's playing off the greens. It gives her a nice creepy effect. Yeah, it's right here. I'm not going to touch it. And now I can decide if I want to shift more to highlights, or if I want to shift more to shadows. It's up to you. I think I kind of like it there. And that's it. Lightroom, she looks nice and creepy. And what we don't have is this. Please don't do this. Let's be reasonable. And just a little bit of clarity goes a long way. And she still looks nice and gritty.
So that's it. And I hope that's given you some alternatives to cranking the clarity and really overdoing your images. I really think you can come up with a much more sophisticated look if you just take a few more steps, play with your contrast, play with your colors, use a teeny weeny bit of clarity when needed, and try that texture, because the texture actually is a lot more delicate. And see how you do. See how it comes out. Because in the end, I think your models are going to enjoy the images more. And I think it's a much more sophisticated way to get that cinematic look that I think a lot of us are going for. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. And if you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, tell your friends to watch me if you're learning, and leave something in the comments, because I love to hear from you guys. Thank you, and I'll see you next Friday at 3 o'clock. Bye-bye.